All right, guys, fucking great. So I'm like, dude, I'm like really into this right now. The shadow archetype thing. One of the things that kind of inspired me to do this is the um, the modern day wizard. The modern day wizard just put out a video today, and I watched it, and he's talking about therapy and stuff, and like how he was a he majored in psychology in college, and his parents, he grew up in a household where his parents were, psychiatrists or something like that, and blah blah blah. And then he kind of talked about his views on all that stuff, including therapy and like psychotherapy and all this shit. And so I don't know. I was kind of wondering, maybe he watched my video or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter, it's whatever. But it just inspired me to, talk more about it. And not as like a call and response to him or anybody, but just like, there's just a lot about it, and why, I'm really into it. So to the skeptic, well, there's different types of skeptics. So to the skeptic of demon possession, the subject of psychology and really like the Carl Jung's archetypes, all it does is support the theory of demon possession, and that demons walk among us and shit like this. Because all that Carl Jung's archetypes do is present it in a practical form, whereas from an exorcist perspective, they're more they're referencing like spirits and interdimensional beings and shit like this. But they actually can complement each other. Going back to how, if you look at the symptoms and signs of demon possessed, they mirror the symptoms and signs of psychopathy. And that I would say that that's not a coincidence, that one complements the other. And so no matter how you look at it, even to the skeptic of demon possession has to admit that there are psychopaths in the world and that there's evil in the world. And then how do you explain how a person can just be evil? And like the shadow archetype is a practical explanation of this, is where it's almost like the Faustian pact, or a pact with the devil. Like if I were to join the Illuminati, okay, knowing what the Illuminati is, I would be making a pact. I would be making a conscious decision that, yes, I want to join the Illuminati. This thing that everybody is saying is evil, skull and bones, Freemasonry, all this shit that that good people stand against. I want to join that thing. Well, I'm making a Faustian pact. If nothing else, it's symbolic of that. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and do fucked up shit to get ahead in the world because, whatever, for whatever reason, because I want to, or because I'm so desperate that I feel like I need to. And that's all shadow archetype shit. That's like, this is, and so to the skeptic of, the psychology of archetypes, I would challenge the skepticism of that, in that there is a real thing to all this. This isn't just a bunch of psychobabble. I'm not a big fan of the science of psychology and shit, and I know that there's a lot of like anything, it gets exploited. No matter what you name something that doesn't get exploited. Just the word love. Take the word love itself. It gets exploited. people use the word love to fucking get in a chick's pants when they don't really love the chick. They tell them they love them. Why? Well, they're using that word to get to exploit it. Whereas then there are also people that either believe or for whatever reason believe that they truly love somebody. There's a difference between the two different uses of the word, and everything can get exploited. Psychology gets exploited by snake oil salesmen. Religion gets exploited by snake oil salesmen. Politics gets exploited by snake oil salesmen. But just because these things are exploited doesn't mean there isn't truth within them, And that's in everything. The truther movement gets exploited. Liars proclaim themselves as truthers, and then they gain influence, internet influencer status, where they got big followings and stuff, and they're just liars proclaiming themselves to be truthers and shit. And they're always getting 5 and 6 figures a year doing their shitty fucking YouTube truther channels, And you name it. Name anything that doesn't get exploited. Does that mean that the thing itself, it's like blaming the gun when somebody kills someone with a gun. It's not the gun's fault. The gun is just there are people that use guns responsibly, and then there are people that use guns to exploit other people and shit like this. But does that mean that guns are bad? No. And it's the same with religion. It's the same with the word love. It's the same with... And psychology is just another one of the many, many, many different concepts that get exploited for personal gain and shit. So, but to challenge... my idea in this video is to challenge the skeptic when it comes to... the shadow archetype, and integrating one's own shadow. So the experience that I've had, that I've tested and tried and found to be true in the whole process of acknowledging one's shadow archetype and then integrating one's shadow. I've tried this and found it to be true. And so I'll just go into an explanation. So this is something that I've grown accustomed to practicing over the last 2.5 decades or so. It started like 2 decades ago or more. It started where I was proposed with the idea of getting a pen and paper out, and this was not from a psychologist or a therapist. This isn't, and I wasn't in paid therapy or nothing like that. It was just a suggested solution to my problems at that time, was to get out pen and paper and start going back into the history of my life and looking for glaring things in my life, and really looking for like poor decisions in my life that were glaring, okay? And the way it was proposed to me was it would be like if I were a store owner and I was selling shit in my store. Well, people that run businesses like that, they have to take inventory of their stock. So they have to go in, and if they have a pile of products stored in the back that aren't selling, well, then they have to adjust. A store owner, a successful business owner, has to take stock of what's going on with their store. And so if they have like items that aren't selling, well, then they have to start pulling those items off the shelf because they're not selling. And then they have to take stock of all this. Like if they have items that are broken or fucking shit or whatever, it's time to throw them away. You got to, at some point, you got to go through and do house cleaning with your store or your shop, and in order to keep your business functioning, okay? And it's the same idea, only with the individual, where I take stock. That's what the whole idea it was about, getting a pen and paper out and just start taking stock of myself. Like what is going on? Like, you know, and like take stock of bad habits. What do I do that's like that's not helpful for me? Say I'm running my own person, like a business. Like, what is working for me, what is not, and start taking stock of all that. And taking stock of myself requires me to look at myself, you know. And so that's what the whole idea of getting pen and paper out and just start taking stock of these things in my life and go back into the earliest history of my life. And so, and one of the not so fun things about it is to start writing down the fucked up shit that I've done in my life, like taking stock. Like, say I stole $1,000 from my mom when I was 15 or something. Well, I would write that down. It's like, I stole this money from my mom, fucking blah, blah, blah. And then that's just one incident. And if a person goes through their entire life, they're going to start piling up. A lot of stuff is going to be getting written down. This is acknowledging one's shadow. This is looking within and looking at taking stock as to what is going on with me, you know. What are the fucked up things that I've done in my life? Like, and the worst ones. And really the goal is to get the most glaring ones, like shit that I'm going to take to my grave that I'm never going to tell anyone, because if anybody ever found out, they would think that I was a hideous person, and just write it all down. And the reason for writing it down is so that it's tangible. There's something tangible that I'm looking at, where it's not just me reviewing it in my mind, where I'm actually putting it on paper. And this, I've already tested this, and it found it to be true, tried and true. And so this takes some time, because, and then once you get the glaring ones down, it doesn't end there, because, you know, like, say for example, when I was 12 years old, I had a friend, and he had a lot of GI Joes. And the little accessories that come with the GI Joes, like the little pistols that you put in their hand, and like the little sword that goes in the ninja's hand and shit. And let's say I while I was at his house playing with his we were playing with the GI Joes and shit, and then he went into the living room to talk to his mom. And then I just took one of those little ninja swords that go in the G.I. Joe hand, and I just put it in my pocket, okay? And then he came back, and then he realized, well, where is it? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know where it is. I don't know. You know, I mean, it gets way deep. Like, you can go way deep with this shit of taking inventory and stock of one's own self, and then writing all that shit down. Like, it's you'd be surprised at the value that has. And so, and like the worst things, the shit that I was going to take to my grave that I wasn't going to tell anybody, you know, I write all of this down, and I'm thorough. I'm as thorough as I can possibly be writing all of this down. Okay. That's part of, you know, that new age, hippy dippy new age term, shadow work. I don't like that term. It's a stupid new age guru bullshit term, but that's what real shadow work, when they're using the term shadow work, it's in reference to what I'm describing. That's real shadow work, where you get a pen and paper out and you start writing all this down so that you have to look at it. It's in your face. It's on paper, you know. And I did, and, you know, and then it's uncomfortable because I don't want anybody to read it. So I have to have a stash spot for my notebook, because I don't want anybody reading all this personal shit, especially the secrets I'm going to take to my grave and stuff, all the fucked up things I've done in my life that I don't want to tell anybody. So I write all this down, and be as thorough as possible, and do not, and you got to let go of fear, doubt, and disbelief. That's what holds a person back from doing this, is fear. Afraid of looking at one's own self. Afraid of looking at this shit. Fear. Doubt. Doubting that this will do any good anyways. And disbelief. that and not believing that this is going to do any good. You know, you got, just like that Morpheus says to Neo, you got to let it all go. You got to let it all go, Neo. Fear, doubt, and disbelief. Free your mind. And so that's what I was in, such a state of desperation that I was willing to do this, to write all this stuff down. And that's what keeps a person from writing it down, is fear, doubt, and disbelief. So when Morpheus says, you got to let it all go, Neo, fear, doubt, and disbelief, free your mind. And that's the jump scene, you know, or the leap of faith. That's what the jump scene in the movie The Matrix is the leap of faith. You got to let it all go. Fear, doubt, and disbelief. And so doing this is a leap of faith. Writing all this shit down, because I guarantee you a person's reluctance to do so is based in fear, doubt, and disbelief. Fear of looking at the bad things about themselves, doubt and disbelief that it's even going to do any good anyways, so what's the point? And you got to let all that shit go. And you really do. To make any meaningful headway in this thing, you know, called the shadow, like the shadow archetype. The shadow archetype is real, dude. It is fucking real shit. So then once you write it all down, then, you know, you do a person does as thorough of a job as they can, but, you know, there's always going to be more, but you wanted to get the most glaring shit on there and be thorough, very thorough. Do not leave any of that glaring shit out. It all must go down on paper. And then you have to look at it. It's on the piece of paper. Okay. Then the next thing after that is to share that with someone else. Physically, like go through all of this and in a conversation with another person. And it can be anybody, you know, but really, ideally, it's not, it can't really just be anybody. It has to be someone that you can trust. And if you don't have, which is very, very hard, almost impossible to find today. So the only other options would be like a stranger, to grab some homeless bum off the street, or go to like where they have a confessional, like a church that has a confessional. It can be in some town out in the middle of nowhere, far away from where you live, where that person will never know your name, never know anything about you, and go into that confessional and fucking just dump all that shit onto somebody. And dude, that has amazing results. Doing that and that is shadow work. That is real shadow work. That these fake New Age guru hippies, when they talk about shadow work, they've never done this, but they're gonna tell you that they're the expert on shadow work and all this shit. They don't even know what the fucking term shadow work means. That's why I dislike that term so much, because it's just an abused term by these fake hippie New Age gurus that don't know anything about what they're even fucking talking about. It's called shadow integration. That's how you integrate your shadow. That's how a person acknowledges their weaknesses and strengths. So when doing this, it's just like when a person takes inventory of their store. They of course they're going to take stock of the flaws in their store, so that they can address those flaws, so that their store will be successful and make money. But then they also have to take stock of what positive things are there, so that so like if they take stock of some items that are selling really good, well then they acknowledge, okay, these fuckers are selling good, so I need to invest more in these, because customers are like fucking buying this shit up like nobody's business, so I need to keep that in stock. This shit over here, it's going to the fucking garbage. I got to get rid of it. It's going to the dumpster. I don't have time to waste on this shit. I'm running a fucking business. It's the same idea. That's what all shadow work is. Again, I strongly dislike the term shadow work. Really what it is integrating the shadow, which is acknowledging strengths and weaknesses, and addressing weaknesses and building on strengths, etc., etc. And the shadow will always remain. Like when running a business, you're never going to run a perfect business. So you always have to monitor what is weak. Where are the weaknesses in my store? So the shadow will always be there. And a realistic person running a business will acknowledge that their business has flaws. A delusional business owner will ignore their weaknesses and flaws in their business strategy, and then their business will fucking fail because they're not looking at it realistically. That's what all this is with the shadow integration, is acknowledging my flaws and seeing them for what they are, removing delusion, getting rid of delusion. Like, I cannot be delusional. The more I eliminate delusion, the more effective I am at being a whole person, like and stuff, and all this, on and on, etc., etc. And but yeah, that's what the whole process of integrating one's shadow is acknowledging that it's there and it ain't gonna go away. So since it's not gonna go away, first I have to accept that is an element within me that's not going anywhere, and then figure out, how do I make this work with this shadow element within me? And the shadow, it can be advantageous. Again, going back to the practical aspect of running a business, if I see a weakness in my business, well, just acknowledging it, like G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle. Knowing I have that weakness is half the battle, and acknowledging it for what it is and accepting that it's there, rather than denying it, living in denial and delusion and this and that. Just looking at shit for what it truly is. And the pen and paper and all that, that is at the fucking meat and heart of the whole fucking thing. If you bypass writing it down, thinking you're just going to do it in your head, and you bypass, like, literally sitting down with another human being and sharing these things, you're bypassing the whole process. If you think you're going to get around it, you're not going to be, as I guarantee 100%, a person will not be as effective at addressing their shadow archetype as if they were just to do it. Just like fucking Morpheus said to Neo, you got to let it all go, man. Fear, doubt, disbelief. Free your fucking mind. It's the leap of faith. The leap of faith. That's the jump scene. The jump program is the leap of faith. It represents the leap of faith, where it's like, it doesn't matter what I think. Somebody else is telling me to write it down. Somebody else is suggesting that this is what I need to do. Write it down. And they're suggesting that I fucking share it with another person. My knee-jerk instinct is, I'm going to not write it down, but because I can just do it in my mind without writing it down. And then I'm not going to share it with another person because I can just, I have a relationship with God or the cosmos, and I can just tell it to the cosmos and stuff. Like, people rationalize this process away by, they're trying to cut corners, and they're always looking for loopholes and how can I do it. And the only time a person will really do it is out of desperation. Like, look at the desperation of Neo when he gets unplugged. Like, he's totally in a state of desperation. When they unplug him, he gets flushed down the toilet. They have to fucking save him from the sewers, and he's in a state of desperation. And then they present the jump program, and then Morpheus tells Neo, you got to let it all go, man. Fear, doubt, and disbelief. Free your fucking mind. And that's the leap of faith, and then Neo's like, fuck, but he's in a state of desperation because he knows that this shit's real. This is a real thing. This isn't bullshit. This is real. And so out of reluctancy, he's like, okay, here we go, fuck it, and he jumps anyways, but that's the shadow integrating the shadow, and this shit is real, man. This shit is not. See, all these people that haven't done it, but they're going, and they love to talk about it, though. They don't walk their talk. They're all talk. They're all bullshit. And then, so once a person does do this, where they write all this down, and then they talk about it with another person, etc., that's only the beginning, because life goes on. So as I continue to live my life, I'm going to continue to make mistakes. So I have to continue to keep a stock and inventory of what's going on with myself. It doesn't end there. It's a lifelong process that continues on and on. And the more I practice it, the more, and then as a result is a person becomes more familiar with the shadow, becomes more aware of the shadow, is able to detect it more when they see it in others, and then gets confronted with bigger shadows, bigger monsters, because they overcome the initial monster, the initial dragon. Well, then there's more dragons to come. And the thing is, when you start getting into the metaphysical side of this, where people say, that demons come after people who omit light. If you start integrating the shadow and doing this, you're going to start omitting more light, and demons are gonna want to snuff your light out more. The more a person integrates their shadow and understands the way all this works, the more their light shines. And the more their light shines, the more demons are going to want to snuff their light out. This is why the shadow process never ends. And not only does it not end, but when you overcome one dragon, you'll eventually at some point, because your light is brighter, you're going to be confronted with a bigger dragon. And by continuing to integrate the shadow, prepares a person for the next level, the next, the bigger dragon, the bigger confrontation. And it will happen, again, because the brighter a person's light shines, the more a demon wants to snuff it out. And demons are repelled by light. So the brighter the light, the more powerful the demon has to be to try to snuff it out. Smaller demons are going to cower. So then bigger demons are going to have to be the one to try to snuff your light out. And this is all the shadow, bro. This is the way the shadow archetype works and all this stuff. And it's real. It's totally real. It is not fake, man. And but also there's a caution in doing the shadow integration stuff. Is there is stuff that needs to be done before, the first initial action is the beginning steps. So there's shit to do to prepare for the initial, stock taking of one's own self. A person has to first do a certain amount of stuff to get to the point where they're, okay, it's like a business owner. A person has to have a business in order to take stock of it, right? A person has to already have shit going on in their business before they can start taking stock of, okay, what's going on with my business, so there's all that comes before taking stock of oneself. And then, and the most ideal thing is to have a relationship with someone who already has experience running a business. So if I'm newer at starting a business and I know people that have run businesses successfully for long periods of time, well, those people are going to come in handy, because then I can go to them and be like, look, what do I do? And then that's when the business owner will be like, the successful business owner who's been doing it for longer will say, well, have you taken stock of your shit? And you're like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, dude, if you want to run a business, man, you need to fucking take an inventory of what's going on with your shit, and you need to be realistic about it. And if you got items that aren't selling, you got to pull them off the shelf, man. That people don't buy that stuff. So you got to get rid of it and figure out how, so people that have more experience in running a business than me or you or whatever, those people are valuable to have, because then me or you can go to them and be like, dude, I'm having trouble. Something's going on in my business, and they can provide insight that me and you don't have. And so these are like the steps to get to really taking inventory and stock. And a lot of it has to do with having someone who has more experience to look to for guidance and shit. And then they can say, well, dude, I've been running a business for fucking 25 years. And I'm going to tell you, you got to take a realistic stock of your shit. And if you got shit that ain't selling, you got to get rid of it. You got to look at the flaws in your business in order to, so people with more experience, right? And so that's really a necessity in doing the shadow integration. Is there are people that have been doing it longer, and they're guides where they can be like, okay, this is what I learned from someone that had a bunch of experience at shadow integration, and this is what they taught me, and I'll just give it to you. This is what I learned. And so doing this, it really requires just like running a business requires knowing people that have ran a business, have more experience running a business. It's the same with shadow integration and stuff. It requires knowing people that have more experience in doing it, and because there's dangers to doing this. It can be dangerous if a person takes it on by themselves. Dude, very dangerous, very, very dangerous, man. And so, and finding the right person is hard, especially when you got a bunch of fakes and frauds and liars and fake gurus and all this stuff. But the benefits to doing it are fucking amazing. Like, dude, it's so great, man. It is such a great fucking experience. And just like Morpheus said, unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. Like, when you experience shadow integration and stuff, you see it manifesting in real life and in the real world around you. And it's like, what the fuck? And the more years practice a person has at doing it, the more they see. And the more you see it manifest in reality, and it's super crazy. And the practice itself is anybody can do it. It's just the willingness, again, where Morpheus says you have to let all this shit go. You have to, because like taking an inventory of oneself where they write all the fucked up shit about themselves on a piece of paper, you have to let go of the fear of doing it. A person has to let go of the fear and the doubt where they're, because the doubt is why even write this shit down? This is bullshit. Like, I doubt this ain't going to do nothing. So what's the point in even bothering writing this stuff down? Like, fear and doubt and disbelief that, no, this guy's saying that this shadow integration stuff is amazing and I don't believe it. It's just bullshit. You got to let it all go. Fear, doubt, and disbelief. And this shit, like I said, that's why I brought it up earlier. Only people that are in state of desperation are willing to try shadow integration because they've run out of solutions. Like, they're in desperate situations and they have nothing else to turn to. And then somebody's telling them, well, you need to do this shadow integration, man. You need to stop fearing and doubting and disbelieving the idea of shadow integration. And you need to start looking at yourself, so anyways, there's just all of this stuff involved in the shadow thing. But it's so amazing. It's an amazing fucking journey, bro. And it's like the heroic journey, they talk about the heroic journey. It's a real phenomenon, man, and anybody can do it. That's what's crazy. It isn't something that people master and only certain people can do it. That is bullshit. And it's practical. It's stuff that anybody can do, like writing stuff down, and anybody can do this shit. And it doesn't require like I've been doing it, for half-assedly for 23 years. And the more a person does it, the more they get into the habit of doing it. And the more they get into the habit of doing it, the more they just do it out of habit. It isn't like out of virtue or anything else. It's just part of a habit that a person acquires when they start doing it. And then the more that they get into the habit and the longer they do it, the more it just continues to build and grow and build. And your light grows. A person's light like totally grows. And the more your light grows, the more demons want to snuff your light out. And the more demons will scatter in fear. But also the more bigger demons will will be compelled to snuff your light out, because the smaller demon, the more your light grows, the less likely the smaller demons are going to want to snuff it out. And so they're going to flee, but demons are repelled by light. And so then bigger demons are going to have to take on the challenge of snuffing your light out the more your light gets brighter and brighter. And I am no master of this or nothing. I'm not trying to claim as such at all in doing this and talking about this. I'm just trying to share just what my limited experience and what I've learned just in my half-assed attempt at doing this. And some people are better at it than others. Like, you might find that you are really good at, you're better than someone like me. Even though I might have more experience, you might be more driven to go further and work harder at it, and et cetera, and build a bigger habit in doing the practice of it, and your light growing brighter, because this isn't a competition. So if your light is brighter than mine, a person who is omitting light is not going to be jealous of someone else omitting light. They're going to be happy. And if a person is omitting light and someone else starts omitting an even brighter light, there is no jealousy. Like, that would make a person happy. Like, they would be glad that someone else is shining brighter, because the whole goal is, it's like a you know, the goal is together. We're doing this together, and everybody has different strengths and weaknesses, and you know, my light might be dimmer, you know, but then my light can repel the smaller demons, whereas someone with a brighter light might be brighter, and but they're not going to have as big of an effect on smaller demons, because smaller demons are going to stay away from them. But at the same time, there'll be bigger demons that they're able to repel and stuff. And so there is no competition. It isn't about whose light is brighter. It has nothing to do with that. That we're all working to brighten each other is the goal. That is what it's about, you know. And so it doesn't matter. All that matters is that our light is shining. And we're all keeping our light on, and we're all, because we're all have the same goal in mind, you know. And so it's a beautiful thing, you know. I've seen people who you know, I've been doing it for 20 years. I'll engage somebody, and within a couple of years, they're already brighter than me. And I've seen this so many times that you just get used to it, and it's just a natural phenomena that exists in the realm of shadow integration, you know. And you know, some people burn twice as bright but only half as long, whereas other people don't burn as bright, but they resonate for longer periods of time. So this is not about competition or nothing, dude. And everybody, so it's really a great thing. And I would encourage people to do this, write this shit down. But again, it starts, there's like a few things that need to be done before getting to the point where a person starts writing their shit down, and then and this whole process. There's some stuff that needs to be done to prepare a person for the shadow or the shadow integration. And really the biggest thing is to have other people that have already gone through some of this, and that you can trust enough to where, you know, you're willing to take their suggestions and stuff. And you know, and really all it is just someone who's already done it. Again, it's not a competition. It has nothing to do with competition. So if you encounter someone who is all about ego, you know, or whatever you call it, you know, you can usually tell who's fake and who's real. So to find someone that's real, to kind of like, you know, bounce ideas off of and check in with, and who's already done it, is the first thing. then you get to doing the writing and this shit and everything. But it's a great experience, man, and it just opens up a whole different thing. So I'm rambling too much. That's all I got, man. That is it.